My name is Jim Bratton. I'm a resident of the Artist Loft here, a full-time resident of Galveston for about 8 months, but we had a 30-year ownership presence over in the East End prior to that. So newcomer, full-timer, but a long-term history here. And we're really liking living in the artistic area here. And I have the great pleasure of, number one, introducing our guest this evening, Ralph McMorris. He's a Galveston business owner. He is currently, of course, the District 3 City Council member. I know this is old news for a lot of you, but not for everybody. So we're going to start, and if it's a reiteration of known facts, all I can do is say, that's too bad. We'll keep going. He's a former president, Galveston Alliance of Island Neighborhoods, a vice president, board member, East End Historical District Association, board member on numerous committees, CEO and owner of Lieutenant Blender's Cocktails in a Bag. That's down the historic Strand area, and he served during the Vietnam War in the Dominican Republic, and he said earlier that he volunteered for the airborne. I'll just take that, he volunteered to jump out of aircraft, ladies and gentlemen. He has a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering from Georgia Tech and an MBA from Harvard. It is our pleasure to welcome Ralph McMorris. Thank you for being here. You have been in politics for how long?
Almost 2 years.
What are the responsibilities as defined for a city councilman?
Basically, when you're on city council, you set the policy for the city. You act on new ordinances. We approve most of the expenses that the city spends, but we actually informally are your representative to the city. So a lot of times we're your conduit. If you have a problem dealing with the city or whatever, then you just come to, contact us, and we're able to bird dog it for you. And most of the time we can get things done at the city a little bit faster because we know the folks down there.
On the responsibilities of city council, can you give us a brief definition of what city council person's responsibilities are?
Well, we are responsible for making decisions on new policy at the city. And so when the issues come up, changes, deletions, any kind of change in the overall policy, it goes to the city council. There's 7 of us, and we will consider it, learn about it, and discuss it, and then we'll take action. Usually means we're going to vote for it up or down.
How does an idea make that transition from an idea into an ordinance?
What I found most effective of creating new issues, new ideas in the city is to work with groups of people that really are behind those ideas. One of the things we'll talk about here is what you can do downtown as a district to improve your area. And city council people, particularly myself and a few of the others, we will help facilitate getting those ideas put together, do the work on it, coordinate with the city, work with the legal department, and put together new ideas that become ordinances. So that's, but I've been most successful working with groups of folks. I'm just one guy volunteering. But when you magnify that with a group of people that are proponents of that same idea, then you're able to really get a lot done. And that's what I've enjoyed so much about council. We've got a lot done.
Confirming that it's a volunteer and not a paid position then?
Volunteer totally, yes.
Wow. What are the requirements to run for city council?
To be on city council?
Yeah, to be on city council, that's right.
You just have to be a resident of the island and have been here 1 year. Then you can run for council. You don't even have to pay a fee to run. You just fill out a form and you go to City Hall at the appropriate time, sign up, and then you can run.
How about term limits? Okay, suppose somebody gets elected. What are the term limits, if any, on city council then?
Well, currently we have 6-year total term years that you can spend, and it's made up of 3 2-year terms. You can, there's an ordinance to change that to 2 3-year terms, but it has not been, it'll be a charter amendment, not an ordinance, a charter amendment that it's not approved yet. You'll get to vote on that May the 7th.
Let's talk about city council meetings.
Okay.
How often are they? Who can go? how welcome are bystanders, and what impact, if any, can a bystander have, and what are the ground rules for somebody that attends city council? What can they expect if they want to go to a city council meeting?
Well, the meetings are notified at least 72 hours in advance, so, and they're published at the City Hall. Beginning of this year, we tried to go to one meeting a month just because we spend so much time in committees and there's a lot of time, and it did make us more efficient, but then we found out we can't get everything done in one meeting a month, so I think we had 3 meetings in March, and we're going to do it again here in April. We've got meetings. We had a meeting last week. We'll have another meeting Thursday. These are public meetings. You can come to these meetings. We have a public speak portion of the council agenda, and so you're able to get up and speak either on the items that are on the agenda, or you can speak about anything. It's limited to 3 minutes, but it's available to any and every one of you.
How much in advance does somebody have to sign up to speak?
You just sign up at the meeting.
At the meeting
Yeah,
itself?
as you walk in, you'll fill out a form and they will pass it up. It depends on what the topic is. Sometimes the topics go with the item on the
Right.
agenda.
Okay, so we know you can attend the meetings, that there's no real prior notice necessary to speak. How does one go about contacting mayor, city council? What's the best way?
Again, the city's got a website, and it's called cityofgalveston.org. All of our contact information is listed on there. Mine is Ralph McMorris at cityofgalveston.org.
We're a number of community members here, a lot of people that I see that I've known, we've worked with, we've done business with, and how can this group, or how can the individuals that make up this group make a difference in a community? You can become generic here if you wish.
Well, like I said before, the trolley's coming back. I put together a group of folks, met at my place, that wanted to bring the trolley back. And a lot of creativity came out of that meeting. The idea of more advertising with the trolley, the naming rights for the trolley stops. And all this got submitted to the city council and was approved, and so the trolley's on its way. And that was one of the most enjoyable groups I worked with. We've started other groups to protect the beaches, keep the building on the beaches. It's been called Save the Beach. Galveston's got the unique advantage of creating beaches here in Galveston and the Houston metro area, and we want to preserve that. We don't want anything built on them. And so, again, another really good group of volunteers are working on that, and I help facilitate that, and I work along with them. Other groups we're working with downtown and throughout the district was to allocate the neighborhood revitalization money. Again, when we do this, we open it to any volunteers that want to join, because it's some work to do it. And Wayne and Craig Cahill headed up the downtown effort to identify where the sidewalks needed to be improved, and so they've mapped that out. We have a meeting this week to present that again to the city to see if we can get that done. So committees throughout the district, volunteers throughout, and usually it comes through the neighborhood organizations because they are already set up with lots of people that belong to that. But downtown, I'm really excited about the fact that the arts community can really play the central role downtown in organizing, getting everybody going down here. You've got so many good bones here in the old historic area, historic buildings, and the art community has come in and taken up a lot of the opportunities for space, and it's really a growing opportunity for Galveston, and I'd like to work with y'all on putting together folks to do that, and it could I think it could become the kernel of the downtown residential area. Everybody can join together and work on things and what's important to you. It's not what's important to me. It's not what's important to the council, and it's really not what's important to the city government. It's what's important to you as a resident down here. And so when you come together and define your vision for the area, then the more you work together, the more you can implement that vision, but you have to stay active in that vision to make it happen. And so I'm here to hope we'll get this kicked off and get it underway with you guys.
After that articulation of what individuals can do, I think it's appropriate that we bring Erica up and she can begin to work her way through some of the questions that she has.
Right.
And by the way, we'll spend about 15, 20 minutes max doing this, because one of the things that we want to make sure and do, because when you come to an event like this, it's a matter of sure asking questions from the floor and in a formal presentation so we can have some semblance of organization as it happens. But it's not likewise that we'll have a chance for everyone can meet one another in an informal setting as this thing concludes. With that in mind, we're going to keep it pretty brief. Erica, thank you.
Alrighty.
You can bring it up if you want.
Can you hear me now?
And Charles
Okay.
is back there. If you have any trouble adjusting, he can adjust the mic for you too.
Okay. All right, now don't shoot the messenger, but
Okay.
no, these are good questions.
No.
Do you know why District 3 is so large and why does it include the beach area? It seems very strange.
Can you say that again?
Do you know why District 3 is so large
Oh,
and includes
okay.
the beach area?
I really don't know how they got carved up. I mean, when they formed these districts a few years ago, they were trying to, the basis is to divide up in equal numbers of registered voters. And so each district, there's 6 districts, each district has basically about 4,500 registered voters. And so they'll start, they hope the areas are contiguous. There's none that are split up in 2 different areas, but they'll try and package them together. And so my district runs from 25th Street over here all the way to the end of the island north of Broadway, but then it comes back up a ways on the beach area, and there's really no population out there, so they had to give it to somebody. So that didn't really add any, but it did add land that we're responsible for.
Great, thank you.
All right, this seems a little tougher. Why did you abstain on the vote on the city's budget?
That's a good question. In City's Workshop, we spent a lot of time evaluating each one of the city's items. And when it came time to vote on the budget, we were not allowed to pull out the items we didn't like. And there was a couple items I really didn't like that I felt like they didn't give enough service to, and so I voted against the whole item because there was no provision to vote for the part you like and not vote for the other part. So I voted against it, or I abstained from it at the same time.
All righty, thank you. How would you bring cruise passengers into the district? Currently, they are shuttling in and out of the area. What would you propose to bring them inland?
I think that's a great opportunity for us, as we can make the downtown more attractive to cruise passengers, more of a variety of retail opportunities, more art opportunities. When the trolley comes back, that's going to be a big tourism plus. And cruise passengers who normally would not want to look at a small area will take advantage of that. So I think we've got a lot underway there. There's more money will be available through various programs that I've participated in. I initiated with the city, such as the head tax or head fee for the events downtown. That money, some of that money can be used for promotion and expand the promotions. Right now, we spend about $100,000, comes out of the hotel motels tax, and we could do a lot better than that. Some of these events, I think we got about $55,000 that came out of the Mardi Gras, and I initiated that when the negotiations came up on that. For the motorcycle rally, when that contract comes up, it could be substantially more. There's 250,000 motorcycles, and if we put $1 or $2 on each one, we're talking about a lot of money that can come downtown. So I started a lot of this, and the city's picked up on it, and we're underway with that. So that'll allow us to do a lot of things, and advertising promotions is one of them.
Thank you. For this past year, how did you allocate your district's discretionary funds from the city?
Well, I didn't allocate them. It's based on the number of people that are in the various areas of the city, of my district. So we try and proportion it based on the population. So that was a given, but I went along with that. And then I let those areas then come together and decide how they wanted to spend the money.
Who controls ideas, decisions, planning of downtown parking? Why not encourage those who live and work downtown to voice ideas?
Why not charge?
Encourage ideas from those who live and work downtown.
Well, that's what we did. When the issue came up of the old meters that we had before were in bad repair. They needed quite a bit of money to bring them up to snuff. So the city management proposed that we go with a totally different kind of system, a pay by phone, which would have eliminated the meters, which did eliminate the meters. That was pretty drastic as it turned out. And so we organized anybody and everybody. We had meetings after meetings at the Grand and around downtown in various restaurants to allow people to come in and voice their recommendations as to how we would go forward. And many people did participate. Not everybody participates. Not everybody participates in anything. And so, but they were representative of the downtown people, residents, businesses, business owners, landlords, all participated in this process. And it was a very tedious, difficult process because we had to turn around the thinking at the city management primarily. We had to turn them around and say, look, we really kind of overdid it, taking all the meters out. So we agreed to bring meters back. And so now we have, I believe, 16 meters. And that's just the current phase, and it seems to be working pretty well.
If a resident wants to get involved with city council or any city politics, what is the best way? I believe you kind of answered this earlier
Yeah,
with
to some degree,
online
but-
and everything, but if there's any other suggestions you have.
Well, what I like to say, when somebody complains to me about something, I like to say, you want to be in charge of that committee, because we're talking about work. There's kind of a tendency to think that I can fix everything, or council, or even city management can fix everything. But we can really do it if we have people volunteer and really want to participate with it. We just had a question come this week from one of the landowners downtown who was upset about signage downtown being, in his opinion, ugly. That was the word they used. And so I put it back on them. I said, great, get together your folks that are downtown that are concerned about this, and let's come up with an improvement in our ordinance. Our ordinance does not define ugly. And so, you know, and so we had fun with a few emails as to what the definition of ugly is, and haven't really got to the bottom of that yet, but that's the process. And so actually one of the people that initiated the email volunteered to head the group, and I think he called himself the Taste Police. He's going to be the head Taste Police guy. So that's the process, and that'll work.
So was he like the ugly definer?
Yeah, I
Then
mean,
it's
well, you ought to see some of the definitions I got. So,
I support the fire department taking over the EMS service in Galveston. There are so many positives to this plan. What are your feelings on this?
I have no opinion myself. I'd like to see the pros and cons on that. I'd like to hear both sides. And usually when we do have a fair hearing of people when they come forward, and that's one of the things council does. When an issue comes up, we'll give people the opportunity to come and present the opposition. They'll present what's in favor of it, and then we are better informed to make a decision. So at this point, I don't know the evidence behind that. So I can't give you an opinion.
What is your opinion on the hot tax in Galveston? And that's all the details they have, but I guess maybe how it's used and spent.
Well, I think the hot tax is a good idea. I mean, basically, we're taxing tourists that come here, so it's not a tax on the residents here. And the money is used it has restrictions on it in some areas. It's used primarily to promote tourism. And so it goes back to benefit where the money's coming from. So it's generally a good program.
Okay, so this is a long one. At the GAIN Candidate Forum, you were the only District 3 candidate that favored putting the public port at the competitive disadvantage by paying a tax of 10% of its gross revenues. Yet, in 2013, you asked the city IDC for $325,000 of public money to expand your personal business. Galveston Port property is not on the tax rolls, but the building improvements and business equipment are on the tax rolls. New port businesses and expansion products would always be built in Galveston, would significantly exceed your property taxes and create quality, livable wage jobs versus low wage jobs. Why should taxpayers provide funds to grow your business for your personal profit and not help the public port? Galveston residents actually own the port, and any improvements belong to the citizens.
Was that a question?
Well, I think I can answer it, Ted. I'd be glad to spend a half hour explaining it to you, but I'll be brief. Well, first, there was an attempt by City Council, some of the people on City Council, it ended up being two of us, that we felt the port, which is one of the biggest assets the city owns, should contribute to the welfare of the rest of the island through taxes. Everybody else on this island, I imagine everyone in here that owns property is paying property tax, but the port does not. Tillman Fertitta has a lot of business out there, employs thousands of people, the Landry's company, and they pay their share of taxes. So just because a business creates jobs, and most businesses do add to the overall economy, whether they're big or little. And so just because they do that should not allow them not to pay taxes or pay a return on investment. And there was a lengthy argument about this, but what we wanted to do, what Norm and I wanted to do, was to bring this back to the citizens to decide whether they wanted the port to start contributing. There's some people that think maybe the port would be, it's kind of like the government. I think you all have heard that there's a tendency in government operations to spend all the money that comes in so they'll get that much money the next year to allocate. Well, the port's kind of like that. They take in $33 million, and at the bottom, they kick out $160,000 back to the city. Well, if you were running a corporation, even a nonprofit corporation, but if you were running a corporation in the United States, you would be fired if that's all you produced on $33 million. The point made by Norm was that if they paid the same rate of their income that they paid in 1940 when the deal was made, it would have been in the 10, 11% return, which would have generated several $million, which would have lowered the taxes for everybody in this room. And we could give rebates back, including Ted could get a reduction on his bill taxes. And so the assumption that the port can't operate with any better efficiency was not tested by anyone. They will tell you, if you came to me, I would try and argue not to have to pay taxes too, but that's just not the case.
Close to the end of the questions? All righty. We're about on time too, and I know there are further discussions that people would like to have. If anybody had another quick question to give to Erica, that's fine, and I know you'd probably like to have a final statement to make.
Yeah, I would like to make a final statement. Okay. Well, I think what I wanted to tell you folks is I've enjoyed my 2 years.
If we could have your attention, please. Thank you.
Yeah, Ted, I'll be glad to spend a half hour with you on that. Anyway, I've enjoyed my 2 years with the city, and I've learned an awful lot. I've learned how you can actually get things done through the city, and really by taking the initiative. I took the initiative in several areas here at the city, and we've got a lot of good things underway, some completed. Proudest thing I've got is, well, actually two accomplishments. One was getting the city council to agree to do some investigation further on the beach, saving the beach and the economics of that. And the other thing was getting the trolley brought back. And we did that through groups of volunteers. And so I'm here to tell you, you're not a victim of the city government. You can take initiative, and we can make this downtown. I gave Becky a paper on the Mystic Port in Connecticut, which is really art-based. It's a seaport that's fantastic, very successful businesses, art, the whole area, and it can be a model for how Galveston could be. But it won't happen if the people in this room just keep waiting for the city government to somehow to figure out how to do it. That's just not part of their job description. But when people get together, it's like Wayne did, and other folks go out and say, okay, we're going to make these sidewalks better so people don't trip on them and don't hurt themselves, and they realize we take pride in our area, and we clean up the potholes, and we fix the sidewalks, and we landscape, and we make improvements. We have a $30 million plan on how to improve downtown and make it much better, but that's been sitting on the shelf for about 4 years. I got them to pull that off the shelf and submit it to the funding that's coming from the BP program. It's just one thing you can do, but then you can take that plan and you can take the city's comprehensive plan, and we can start building on that to create our downtown and create where we really want to be when we grow up. And that's up to the people in this room. It's not a function of waiting for somebody else to do it for you. So that's what I'm here, and that's what if I'm reelected, I look forward to putting together the volunteers. If y'all were here after Hurricane Ike, 300 people came together to kind of vision how they wanted this place to be once we started putting things back together and building it. And it was the most successful program of its kind, FEMA said, in the United States. And we took those plans and incorporated them into a comprehensive plan that we have here now available at the city, and it's a great plan. What we did wrong was we then put the plan on the shelf instead of people like everybody in this room getting behind and taking pieces of that plan and being responsible for that plan, and let's see that plan implemented. So what I want to do if I'm reelected is lead an effort, and I'll lead it with anybody else that wants to join, to pick up where all that left off and realize the vision of this island that it can be, and not give up until we're there. So that's what I'd like to ask y'all to join me in as we go forward.
Councilman McMorris, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Becky, did you have anything else that you'd like to add as we wrap things up?
Please come back and join us on April 22nd when we will have all the candidates here, and it'll be a very informal evening to where you can go up and ask the individuals questions that you have and get to know who your candidates are. And so join us if you can on April the 22nd at 6:30 back here at the Proletariat.
Great, thank you very much. Thank all of you for coming
Thank y'all
very
very much.
Thank you for the lively discussion that we had.